Check each hip pocket to make sure it's smooth and flat and the foam is stuffed all the way into the bottom. If you see foam sticking out at the top, that's a clue that it might not be tucked all the way in. Start serging with the mesh on the bottom. Line up the edges so there is no mesh showing on the front and no ripstop showing on the back. If you have a differential feed on your serger, you can set it to a slightly gathered stitch for doing this step, and it will help ease the mesh and the foam in as you sew. You should usually trim off just a little bit of each of the layers, the foam, the ripstop, and the mesh. This end down here is going to be a little trickier to get it tucked in. The differential feed will help, but the closer you can line that up, even if it has a little tuck on the back, the cleaner it finishes at the edge of the pocket. After you sew each one, turn it over and quality check. Right here I missed a little bit. If I would have been using my differential feed, I think that would not have been a problem. If that happens to you, just reserge it. Trim off a little bit extra if you need to. As long as you catch all the layers in the serge stitching, it will be fine. That will all be covered up by ribbon. Trim all the threads as you go. It helps the next person to not have a big spider webby mess. If you get a pocket that the foam is shorter than the fabric, check to make sure it's stuffed all the way in still, and then just serge it off right next to the edge of the foam. It's important for the foam to be anchored in place. So just serge off the extra pocket fabric so you still catch all 3 layers. Trim the threads and do a quality check. To put these pockets into pairs, you're going to line them up so that 2 pockets make a house. Check the longer edges and make sure that they are almost close to exact. If they're more than 1/4 inch off, then they need to be trimmed and resewn. The closer to the same size these pockets are, the easier it is for them to be sewn onto the jacket and for it to finish nice and clean and even. That's a very visible part on the vests, and we want to make sure we're giving our very best efforts. Double check again that that long edge is well within 1/4 inch, and use some sewing clips to clip those together.